Hello again, Steve here with a real quick question. Who are we listening to? I think it's an important thing because here at the Genie Project, we do more than just talk about stuff, although I do seem to do a lot of talking, don't I? But we also like to be able to up our actions to be helpful actions, right? To become more active people in life. And listening, of course, who we're listening to, that's an activity. That's the result of a choice we've made to act one way or another, right? To listen to one group or another, or one person or another, right? And so often, historically, we listen to mainstream media, of course, because before the internet, we didn't have a whole lot of extra choice other than reading books and whatever. But there wasn't an alternative to the mainstream media like there is today, right? And it's become very clear to those who have eyes to see and ears to hear that the mainstream media is not honest. At least it's not. Its business model is not based on honesty, after all, because it wants to drive a narrative because it's based on an incentive. You've got to look at the incentive that people have, right? If the incentive is profit from advertisers, let's say, then what the media wants to do is it wants to deliver, eyeballs and ears in need, injured eyeballs and ears to the advertisers, because then they would want to act. So it wants to rile up sort of resentments and fears and whatnot within people so that they would take action to avail themselves of the advertising that's in there. That's just maybe one explanation. I mean, also there's ideological people within there. And we know that most of the mainstream media is dominated by leftists, so their ideology is going to be leftist, which is sort of an outcropping of dishonesty. It's the sort of the dishonesty, like the left is kind of like people who are living more in a state of nature, right? They will steal if it's easier to get what they want than negotiating. They will lie more often than say the truth if that's beneficial. It's whatever. It's the means, the ends justify the means type of people, which is very much of a state of nature. It's like a cat, which is in a state of nature. It doesn't think, oh, maybe this will hurt the mouse population if I eat this mouse. No, it doesn't think of that because it's just acting in its best interest alone. So that's another thing that we got to be aware of, I think, in who we're listening to. Like, what are these people up to, right? And there's an old saying, hidden in plain sight. I mean, who was it I think I forget what channel it is, but there was Rachel Maddow anyway. She was one of the ones who interviewed Trump originally. I remember the people on the CBC thought, oh, she's going to hammer this guy. She knows so much about the Middle East and everything. But she turned out to be a complete disgrace. In fact, about a year ago or so, when she was caught in one of her lies, her defense was, don't believe anything I say. Nothing that comes from me can be taken as fact. But yet, for years, you sort of sold yourself off as a news announcer or some sort of a reporter. Well, if we can't believe anything you say, it's sort of like that'd be sort of like the National Enquirer, wouldn't it be? I mean, the National Enquirer is probably more honest than that. And a lot of times we as human beings, we get caught up in thinking that, even though what we're listening to is a lie, we're so entrenched in it that we sort of make it to be true. I ran into a guy not long ago. He was riding his bicycle, and I just thought I'd say hello because I like to say hello to people when I was riding by. We had a good little chat there for a while. And he started going on about this and that, and I just questioned him, well, how do you know that to be true? And he says, well, I saw it on CNN. I mean, I sort of feel bad for the guy after I had to start laughing because I mean that there's a mosquito landing on my hand. I thought he was actually joking at first. I mean, could anybody be seriously say that with a straight face? I mean, he was a little bit of an aged boomer, and I guess that was what but from what I could see, he honestly meant that as a sort of a defense, which reminds me actually of an Alan Jackson song years ago. There was a song that he sang, where were you when the world I forget what it was. Anyways, it was a song to do with after 9/11. And there's a line in it that goes something like, I watch CNN, but I'm not sure I can tell you the difference between Iraq and Iran. Doo-doo. Anyway, so it was like, well, how would you? You know, it's CNN after all. So, and I remember back in the day, at that time, CNN, if you watched CNN, you were informed. Like, that's what people thought anyways. But meanwhile, they would just have makeup artists pretend that they were in the Middle East and what have you, and they were in a studio in New York. So, yeah. And another guy, Mark Twain, many people remember him. He was the guy who once said that something along the lines that if you read the newspaper, no, if you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you read the newspaper, you're misinformed. So, I mean, and a lot of people would just say, oh, that's Mark Twain. He's just a joker or whatever. But no, Mark Twain had a lot of prophetic things to say for sure. And it was certainly true now. And it was obviously probably true then as well, right? So, I mean, I think that we're better off choosing to listen to those who at least get things fairly consistently right. In other words, they have a methodology to their thinking and their investigation, and that they have a history of being honest. I think that would be a starting point. But there's also listening to our gut, like using our common sense, putting our common sense on. Like, don't just believe people because they said so. Like, if I was to get into an honest discussion with that guy, mosquitoes hanging around, with that guy with CNN, I mean, I would have made the point that, so what, CNN said it. It doesn't matter. I mean, I've used the case with people before who talk about, you know, so many scientists said that this is valid, therefore global warming is, or whatever. And I would say, well, so what? I don't care if 1 million scientists said so. Is it right? That's the question. Like, look at their methodology. What's their methodology? You can have all kinds of people who say that they are whatever, but they're just, many of them are wrong, right? Many people are wrong all the time. So it's important for us, I think, to have this integrity within ourselves to choose truth. And therefore, if we're going to gain sort of backing for what it is that we believe or what it is that we've deduced, I think we're better off examining the thought processes and the information of people who not only get it right fairly often, but have a track record of honesty. And also look at their motivation, right? If they're appealing to the people that they're talking to, and that's who they're responsible to. Oh, I just killed a mosquito. I guess I'm not a Jane. If that's who they're appealing to is their actual, the people that they're talking to, they have a much greater likelihood to be honest to them. Whereas if their gatekeepers are their advertisers or government and stuff like that, then they have a greater tendency to be propagandists and apologists and so on. I mean, it's just, we see lots of this in spades these days. So hopefully that was helpful. So, and if you like what I'm doing, please like, subscribe, and share. And once again, if you're interested in anything that I'm doing at the Inner Genie Project, just go to the website innergenie.com, click on the email link, and shoot me an email and say hello. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.